Hello, hello. It's Big Cheds. I'm back with another chapter of my battles with cancer and candid patient and caregiver's memoir. I published it in 2020, and I republished it last year, and I just finished the audiobook. And I'm doing it now on YouTube, one chapter at a time for free because I want to get it out there. I want it to help people, and this is the whole point. I'm a cancer survivor, and I was a caregiver for my mother. And writing about my experience helped me with my own feelings, but it can help a lot of other people who are just starting to go through it. So I also have published two other books, just so you know, Trading Wisdom and Trading Quotes, that are available on Amazon. I am Big Cheds on Twitter, and I'm Cheds Trading on YouTube. So we're doing finally free. Last time we did Halfway Home Again, finishing up radiation. Now we're finally free. I've completed my chemotherapy and radiation sessions. So that's what we're going to do. Finally free. What an amazing feeling it was to leave the hospital now that my chemotherapy and radiation sessions were 100% complete. Finally free for the first time since my initial diagnosis. I was able to take that plastic hospital bracelet off my wrist and begin the process of physical and spiritual recovery. Once I got home, I went straight to my man cave and spent a lot of time thinking about what it means to be a survivor. I pondered the concept of beating cancer, and I tried to figure out how that all fit with my life going forward. One issue I kept mulling over was how I would describe my situation to others when I met them, because I was not sure what technical category I fell into. Communicating my exact status about a complicated topic like cancer was something I was going to have to learn how to do. In order to complete this task, I needed to know what the terms survivor and remission meant, so I looked them up on the internet. Remission, as defined by WebMD, is if you're in partial remission, it may mean that you can take a break from treatment as long as the cancer doesn't begin to grow again. Complete remission means that the tests, physical exams, and scans show that all signs of your cancer are gone. Some doctors also refer to complete remission as no evidence of disease. I guess you could say that I was in complete remission as there was no longer any evidence of disease. I also wondered what it meant to be a cancer survivor. And according to Wikipedia, the National Coalition for Cancer Survivorship, NCCS, pioneered the definition of survivor as being any person diagnosed with cancer from the time of their initial diagnosis until their death. This expansive definition of survivor includes people who are dying from untreatable cancer. So I was for sure, by any definition, a survivor, but I really didn't feel that way. Honestly, in the back of my mind, I was still worried about the cancer coming back. However, I did feel some relief knowing that I was done with all the hospital visits and treatments. I was more than happy to no longer be a patient and to be able to give my body and spirit the time it needed to recover. Part of recovering physically was recovering spiritually and finding ways to make the most out of life and to enjoy this new version of myself. It was critically important for me to celebrate life and the new chance I had been given, and I did not plan on squandering that opportunity. Near the top of my list, I really looked forward to working on my garden. I loved the idea of pulling weeds and preparing the soil and then planting new things to watch them grow. Every new seedling I planted was a metaphor for my life, as I too was ready to grow. Despite these feelings of optimism, I was emotionally conflicted. One part of me wanted to celebrate having beaten cancer, and another part of me wanted me to be cautious and to stay focused on the chance of it coming back. I found it incredibly difficult to shake the shadow of my prior patient self, the one who was full of doubt and fear all the time. Once I received that initial diagnosis, my life was never going to be the same, as the mirage of invincibility had permanently been removed. I had a scar now that would never fully heal. Even after beating it and being cancer free, there was always a thought in the back of my mind that the cancer could come back at any time. That was emotionally tormenting. From reading online and talking to others, I understood that even though it might be years before I could shake that shadow, eventually I would. That is, if I was lucky enough to avoid a relapse. One of the things I wanted to do most was to celebrate and enjoy life by getting out on the water and communing with nature. I wanted to disconnect from the rest of the world. I've always jumped at any chance to get out on a lake. And with minimal effort, I was able to find a nice Airbnb to stay with and with my friends so we could celebrate and help soothe my soul. I could not wait to fish, to explore the woods, or just sit on the dock with friends and talk about old times. It was during this trip that I really started to work on this cancer memoir with some serious focus and drive. At that point, I had a pretty good outline, having written down notes for myself from along the way, from events that had made an impact on me. I even included some of the more illustrative day-to-day stuff that I went through. During my late-night man cave sessions, while I was decompressing, I would often remember interesting things that happened along the way and recorded them in my notepad to flesh out later. It was this weekend, the first one away from home after completing my treatment, that I began to turn these notes into paragraphs, and officially, I began this memoir. As late spring turned to early summer, I continued to work on my garden. With great pleasure, I watered plants and pulled weeds. I trimmed branches, and I even harvested some smaller vegetables. Taking longer walks felt great. I started to re-explore my town, and I tried to reconnect with its denizens and the living, breathing world around me. While I was doing this, I continued the process of re-examining my life and asking myself, what was I going to do next? I wondered if I would take advantage of this new chance I had at life. It was an amazing gift, and more than anything, I wanted to funnel this sense of appreciation I was feeling into something meaningful, into something I could be proud of. As the weeks continued to tick away, I was looking and feeling more and more like a normal person. At this point, I'd started to gain back my color as well from that much needed time outdoors, and my hair also had started growing back. It was almost to the point of looking like a buzz cut. In general, I was just feeling a lot more normal, and I was able to recognize another piece of my old self every new day as I looked in the mirror. As a coping mechanism, I told myself that the radiation therapy was no big deal, almost to the point of believing that it had no effect on me at all. And then one day, standing in front of the mirror and looking at my chest, I realized that I had been thinking about the radiation all wrong. On one side, everything looked perfectly normal, but on the other side, there was a clear, almost rectangular shaped area where there was no hair growing. This was the exact place on my chest where the machine had administered the radiation to kill all those cancerous cells. If any of those cells were cancerous, they probably did not survive, or so I hoped. Looking at my chest now, I realized that the machine had also killed healthy cells, and those would take some time to come back. The big takeaway was that the radiation was not something to be taken lightly, and it really did have an impact on me. That bare patch on my chest was a strong indication that I should respect the power of radiation. I needed to give my body the time it needed to recover, rather than trying to rush back to normalcy. Upon reflection, I think one big reason I was trying to minimize the danger of radiation in my mind was to avoid the thought of being a damaged person. After surviving chemotherapy, I needed to see myself as strong and durable again. That way, I could continue to hold my head high while I recovered and worked to shed that identity of a sick and feeble cancer patient. As the summer progressed, I continued to enjoy fishing with my friends and taking long walks around town. One of those days, while I was out doing some basic grocery shopping, I ran into one of my doctor's preschool teachers. When we first made eye contact, it seemed like she didn't recognize me. And then I saw a big smile across her face and a look of astonishment. With a smile on my face, I walked up to her and I said hello, and we began to talk. She was just stunned at how amazing I looked, as the last time she saw me, I was bald, pale, and thin. This woman had been a huge help to our family during my chemotherapy sessions, bringing by cooked meals every other week and occasionally taking my daughter to school when we were in a pinch. After catching up further and wishing her well, I walked away that day with my head held high and a warm and fuzzy feeling in my belly. This woman told me that seeing me made her weak, and the kindness that she relayed gave me such a wonderful feeling of joy and purpose. That experience helped to encourage me to appreciate life and to enjoy each moment going forward, celebrating just how special it is to be alive. A few weeks later, I had another experience like that while I was out to dinner with my wife and her friends. We were at one of the more popular restaurant areas in the city, and my wife ran into a professor from her college days. After some small talk, this professor was just blown away when I told her that I had been diagnosed with lymphoma only 8 months prior. She told me that it was inspiring for her to see that I had bounced back so quickly, and I told her just how much I appreciated those words. Once again, I was filled with a special feeling of gratitude and the knowledge that I was getting my body back and I was looking normal again. That was a huge emotional boost, and it was great to know that my story was inspiring to others. All right, that was finished strong. And next chapter is returning to the scene of the crime. That will be interesting. Folks, this is my battles with cancer, a candid patient and caregiver's memoir. I'm a cancer survivor. And my mother was a cancer patient, so I was her caregiver. I'm publishing this book. It's on Amazon, but I'm publishing it on YouTube for free. I'm reading one chapter at a time. I really want it to be available to anybody who it may help, so that's why I'm doing it here. I'm Big Cheds on Twitter, Cheds Trading YouTube. I've also published Trading Wisdom and Trading Quotes. This is my battles with cancer. Folks, thank you so much. I appreciate you hanging out here, and I'll talk to you soon.